It's fall season, and with that right off the way is spooky, scary skeleton Halloween season. So this is the perfect time to play a spooky, scary game. Sadly, there's not a lot of that RPG-wise out there, at least one that's easy to attain. So on my search for a spooky game, I fell across the most easiest and convenient and well-known one that kind of fits the build, and that is D&D, or specifically in this video and for what we're covering, Pathfinder, which is very similar. Yes, I know, D&D and Pathfinder are really well discussed amongst Christian groups of whether you should play or you shouldn't, whether it's good or evil. While I personally do kind of, for the most part, believe that D&D or Pathfinders are good and can be played as Christians, I think this game really does kind of promote or show kind of the other side as to why Christians maybe shouldn't. Hello, this is Hidden Values. I'm your host, Noah Price, a Christian gamer who loves RPGs and JRPGs, and through this show is trying to bring awareness to the games we play and what we're consuming. What philosophies and influences are coming into the games we play? Whether you're a Christian who's hopefully going to be helped out with being aware of some of the things that we play and hopefully helping you make that decision where you should or shouldn't play a game, or if you're a non-Christian who just wants to learn more about the games we play and hear a Christian's opinion. I hope this can help you out, especially with this new show or new type of show. See, my normal series actually just covers RPGs and do a full length on them. Every 5th episode is a special where it's a non-RPG, but both of these things I play the game to complete for the most part. But RPGs are known for being kind of long, especially nowadays. They usually tend to be averaging 60 hours, which is a long time for a video game. So to make sure you guys get videos, I created a new show that should help us out. It's called 10 to Decide. Basically, the concept is I play a game for 10 hours, and then at that point, I have to make a decision. Should you play this game or not? And while ultimately the decision's on you, which is good because I'm not you, I don't have the same problems or situations as you, totally fine. This should still help both of us. The reason for the 10 hours is that a lot of times video games, especially RPGs, sometimes have a slow start. And a lot of times people say, hey, just give it time and then it'll get good. And I think about 10 hours is usually that grace period. 2 more and you're asking for a lot. 2 less and good. I want to play the game. So within 10 hours of playing a game, we should have an idea of what's to expect in the game. The normal format and normal cycle of the game should be going by now, and any red flags we run into already should be a good warning. And the first game we're covering for this is Pathfinder Wrath of Righteous, a fairly new CRPG. For those who don't know, CRPG is computer RPG. Usually CRPG as a title, while it doesn't really kind of fit for today's standards, it's usually just meant for games that were originally tabletop. So D&D, Pathfinder, those games were originally on board, still are. They were transferred over to computers or video games, and that's where you just add the C to computer. Computer RPGs. Weird, funny, but I like it. First off, we should ask the question of why would you even want to play this game? CRPGs provide a unique thing for players. For people who either 1, can't find a play group to play the actual in-person game, or 2, for those who have no idea and can't take the first step of 1, trying to find a group because they feel like they lacked the knowledge of how to play. And so this might be a little bit easy little baby step into the genre of D&D and Pathfinder. And personally, just through playing this game, I do think this does it well. This game specifically with its tutorial system and it's a not so rule grinding, being mean about it, does help for new players who are just trying to learn the game and taking their first steps and getting an idea of what the game is. Even though it does throw a lot because there is still a lot to learn. One thing I was blown back by this game though that I wasn't expecting is the options and the customization within this game. While it's very common and it's usually for some people the biggest appeal to RPGs for many is the customization of either yourself or in general of your party, and this has it. While many of you wouldn't be surprised by that because it's a Dungeons & Dragons or Pathfinder game, which the whole thing is very customizable with all your options of how you want to play uniquely. The reason why I was a little bit doubtful about it is that a lot of times the RPGs, while the whole appeal is customization, sometimes they're very limited. And I was kind of expecting through this transfer to a video game, I thought it was going to lose a lot of that customization. Surprisingly enough, this does not. That does also bring the consequence of taking over an hour to create your character, because there's so many classes and subclasses that you can create your character, which I would say does provide a lot of replayability for the game. So even though it's overwhelming, it was overwhelming for me, you can always just start a character, create a character, start playing, and then if you don't like it, just restart and start a new character. That's kind of what I did. Now, rolling with the positives, I want to bring up another thing that this game alone does for the JRPG genre that is groundbreaking. That is its combat. So for JRPGs in general, you mostly are just on a pause and unpause system. So while it's not traditionally turn-based like a normal D&D or Pathfinder game is, it's very much you just choose your commands and it's a very active base. Everybody's just doing it all at one time. And if you want to pause to change something specifically, you can do that. And while that works, this game also put in the mode of turn-based, which I love so much. It gives the more normal Dungeons & Dragons feel. The problem to it is that while these games in general, these JRPGs games are known for being super long, which this one is, it's even longer if you choose to do the turn-based mode. So you kind of have to pick and choose if you want to play the game for longer but have the turn-based feel, or do active time and maybe speed up your process of how long this game is going to take for you. The good part of this is you can switch the mode when you want to, so that's always such a good thing, I think. So maybe on like normal combat, do the fast normal in time mode, and then for big boss combats, then do the turn-based and really think about your moves. Alright, I think it's time to talk about the game's story. This is kind of a pro, but in general, mostly it's a con for me. It's actually the biggest problem I have with this game. Now, the theme and concept of the game's story basically is you are a group of crusaders against demons. That's basically the main focus. And while some people hate that because that means most of the enemies you'll be fighting are demons instead of the vast variety of monsters that you may find in a normal D&D or Pathfinder game, it does have some variety. But I liked it because it does alleviate the possible problem for Christians of, well, these fancy monsters or these demons are in this game. In this side, it does give the idea or the feeling of, oh, this is just like almost like spiritual warfare in the physical. Good versus evil, basically. Just that simple black and white almost concept. And while the game does push in some concepts that are a little bit more making you think, that's a little bit like, well, what is really the meaning of life and all that stuff, which I always love to have in a game. It's good to ask those questions and get that thought process going. The problem I have with this game is the fact that it's a video game and not a in-person D&D or Pathfinder game. And that is because while in a D&D or Pathfinder game, the DM does have to follow a book of kind of the story and navigation of pre-made characters and whatnot, they still have the flexibility to cut out or add stuff that does help your group. This is the biggest reason or aspect to D&D as to why I think Christians can play D&D. You can cut out a lot of bad stuff. Stuff that might be secular, some sexual influences or problems. Like for me, instantly, I've mentioned several times in the show how I used to have a drug addiction. And so, me talking with my DM, I will clarify, be like, hey, any stuff like drugs and usage like that, can we just not have on our campaign because that would not be good for me. It would ruin the fun. And so clarify, talking to my DM about that will allow that to be out of the way, and I don't have to stress about that. We can just have a good time and have fellowship together. With a pre-made video game that's made by secular creators, you're gonna have stuff in there that might be a problem for you. Right off the bat, while they didn't make too big of a mention or focus on it, there is same-sex kind of relationship going on. And for somebody who's just coming out of same-sex problems and troubles and struggles, that's not good for them. There's cursing and other stuff like that in this game also. And while, yes, as a Christian, we can't just walk around like dandelions, not facing the real world, it's just these influences can be problems for you. It sadly is a downside of this video game version compared to maybe doing this campaign in person with a friends group. For a Christian, doing this campaign could be really great, but playing it in the game, you do have to deal with sexualized things, and it's just not necessarily the most healthy thing for you to consume. Again, there's a lot of pros to this game, and I think it's very fun. and it's very long. So if you're a Christian who doesn't struggle with sexualized things, maybe cursing isn't actually really too much of a problem for you, I do think this is a pretty good game if you either one, don't have a friend group because it's just hard to find a friend group in person to play right now, or if you've never played and you're a little bit too scared to take the first step to try to find a friend group to play in person, then this could be a good option for you to at least take your steps towards. But that's gonna do it for this video. I hope it helped you a lot. If there's any games you want to know or have me cover or talk about, leave me down in the comments down below. It always helps. And if it's a game I covered but you want something specifically covered a little bit more deeper, you can always leave that down in the comments down below. Any suggestions, I'll take them and put them in consideration. I do cover specifically RPGs, except for every 5 episodes, I do cover a non-RPG game. That's actually what you're seeing right here is the Magic the Gathering. It was our very first non-RPG game. And so, leave your comments down below, and I hope this helped you out.